I've got hundreds of print ads that I haven't listed, and I'll show you those in another video here. We'll go into print ads here in a video, and I'll show you, my assortments and things along that line and my thinking on it in another video. That should help you too. But that'll be a separate. It's going to take you a little while to go over stuff like that with you specifically. Maybe I'll dedicate like a 30 or 40-minute video just to showing you the differences in them on that, because I get a lot of questions on print ads. So they're cheap. That's the point. I pay almost nothing, if almost nothing, for them. Let's see here. I recently came into 600 plus collectible logo golf balls going back to the 70s and 80s, sports logos, company logos, restaurant logos, etc. In your experience, is there a market for these? There seems to be a bit of one on eBay. I have $80 totally into them, and they don't take up a ton of space, so it's not exactly priority. Let me answer that one here. My experience with golf balls goes back to like when I was 13. There used to be a par 3 over here by our house. It was a good walk, a mile or two from my house. And around it was an L-shaped corridor of corn. And in the fall, it would just dry out, and friends of ours would play like war combat out there, and we'd shear off the bottom of the kernels, and we'd throw them at each other like grenades and yell grenade, and it was just a big thing because they were taller than us, these huge stalks of corn. And golf balls would come flying in there once in a while, and one day a guy said, "Hey man, I'll give you $2 if you go get me that ball." And I was like, $2 for a ball? I was shocked, and all this time we'd been walking in that field. There's golf balls there all over the place. And we got to talking to these guys, and they said, "Hey, we're here every week, this day," or whatever the day came out to be. And it turned out we found 2 people that would do that, and we'd collect all the golf balls in buckets all throughout the fields. They were all over the place because the field on the outside wasn't owned by the par 3. And so we'd sell them to them, and we'd make some good money selling golf balls. So I've always played around with golf balls. Logoed ones don't sell generally like restaurants and stuff like that, in my personal opinion. Sports teams can sell, vintage ones especially. They got to be in like mint unused condition for the most part, like Mercedes golf balls and things like that go. The ones people want the most are the ones they can show off to their friends, the high dollar golf balls that they can take to the golf course and use. Those are the ones that I've always sold for the most money, in all honesty. I've had logo ones. I've had real early ones that sell as antiques and collectibles. So there are people that buy collectible golf balls. Sports team-wise, most of like that kind of stuff seems to be sold to people that are fans of the sports team and not necessarily golf ball collectors. Or they're fans of a sports team and they play golf as well. That's my personal experience on that. You may have some good money. You don't have much invested into it. So for $80 for hundreds of golf balls, even if you sold them in lots, you should get, at least double your money. I couldn't imagine you doing less than that. You might want to display like 5 or 6 restaurant golf balls in one single image, crop it right around it, nothing else around them, just that. Maybe have a sky blue background. And I know I always say don't have anything but a white background. If you're on eBay, you can safely do it. Golf balls, you have to show them off a little better if they're solid white balls. White background, you just can't see the details very well. So I always try to do a plain sky with no clouds if I do something like that, and they do seem to do very well. I don't list those on Amazon, so I don't really have to worry. So hopefully that gives you a thought on that. I'm going to take another crack at getting on Gated and Collectibles on Amazon with a month or so. Don't want to call it names, but there's a couple on here. If you guys have had any luck and heard back from the collectibles on Gating, please post it down here, or even send me a personal email. I won't call it any names if you don't want. I've got 2 people that have been working on it. Again, it took me more than 30 days, or right around 30 days, to get in with like 20 some odd emails to these folks, day after day after day, relentlessly bugging them. Yeah, I can't tell you what the process is now. I have no way to know what they're doing now. I've been ungated for quite some time, and with the experience I told you about the stolen goods, it may get a lot harder now. I don't know. I don't want to scare anybody off because it's worth it if you can get in there. Again, I know people tell you you can list in this category, don't worry about it, but even if it's being told that to you by Amazon, it's not the seller approval department that's going to tell you the correct answer. It's the compliance department, which you're not going to hear from until you do something wrong. I mean, one department at Amazon doesn't know what the other department's doing. I can tell you for sure. Anybody who's done FBA and watched their shipments just dispersed and all this stuff, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we got another question on this too. Being part-time, I just want to focus on Amazon, not have to worry about the expenses of keeping and time maintaining an eBay store. You have to maintain an Amazon store, I'm telling you right now too. It's not just about setting everything in. You got to check the prices all the time. There's services you can pay to do it, but every service you add on to there is going to take a certain change or certain percentage of your business profits and lower them and lower them and lower them. You got storage fees monthly if you send everything in. So I only send in stuff that I know is going to sell for fairly quick. We used to do books and send in a ton of those, and you can rack up some storage fees if you got the wrong products up there. We figured it out, so I'm not going to complain about that aspect of it. But yeah, Hockin Hills is nice too. So there were some comments on Hockin Hills. Okay, here's another one. So it seems to me that these motors, and it's just directing towards the music boxes, would be very close to motors they have in mid-century clocks, and most everything you're teaching here about repairing them would hold true for repairing the clock motors. Yes, that's true. I repaired clocks long before I messed with the music boxes. The only thing I'm going to tell you with a clock, you better wear some darn good gloves, have face protection, the whole works. If you're ever going to mess with a spring, taking a spring out to replace a spring, most clocks, the parts inside of them are repairable by an average person with decent or mid-range technical skills. But the spring in a clock is very, very tight, and if you let go of it and let it out of pressure from your hands, it's going to flash all over the place, and you could get some major cuts and some major injuries from that. Do not do it until you're sure, covered up. Whatever you got to do, be careful with it. But you can take out a spring in a clock and clean it. You can keep it in the box and clean it too. You'll have to let it drain for quite some time to make sure you're not going to be dripping oil or grease if you re-oil it and then put it back in. Same basic principle does work for clocks. As I said, I've fixed most clocks that I have gotten. I've never taken a clock into the shop. The first time we had a clock that was a family clock and I realized how much it cost to fix, I tried to seek another way. So I do mess with repairing them. My only goal for repairing them is to get them to tick and stay ticking and advancing the time over, at least a day's worth of time, or a couple days would always be better. I'm not really worried if it's keeping time. As long as it's working, the person who's buying a clock that's not set properly usually is a clock person that will repair it, especially if it's a high dollar one, or they've got the money to take it into a shop and go from there. That's just my personal experience on that. So I've never had an issue selling a clock that I messed with. I've never had anybody come back and wonder or anything else. They've all been happy and left good feedback. So hopefully that answers that. Andy Warhol record covers. I'm talking about covers. I've got a video coming out, so I just wanted to address that. But there will be another video, a part 2 on that, probably next month. Just because I've already got stuff in mind, and I already thought about that before I got hit up with a bunch of questions. Picasso is another one you can look for. DSM, type in DSM and jazz in, say, pop psych, and you'll see another name to look for. And it escapes me now what DSM stand for, but it's 3 specific names of this one person, first, middle, and his last name, and I wished I could remember. But he did all the good jazz covers for a lot of the 10-inch higher dollar jazz discs. So 78Ys or even LP stuff. Metalux. I can't remember the DSM stands for. But if you type in DSM, that's all you really need. DSM and jazz, and Picasso, as I said, those are some key ones. Salvador Dali has a few, and somebody else even made a comment about that, but they're really not worth very much money. I don't mess with anything usually under $10 if it's a record, just because it takes a little more time to package. I'll sell some 45s for $7.99. Usually I try to get more than that, or $9.99 or higher, but I will sell some cheaper ones just because I already have the cardboard cut up and it doesn't take much to wrap a 45. So anyway, but I will have another video coming out on that as well. And again, there's nothing wrong with flipping $5 and $6 records, or even $10 records. There's nothing wrong with that at all, as long as you know that there's going to be time to properly wrap them. Again, you can't ship an LP with the disc inside of its inside sleeve. You always got to take those out, otherwise it's going to split. You can also split the cover if you keep the record in the disc. I wrap it with the record on top of the disc. Watch my packing video on packing that. In that packing video, especially the last one where I say how to pack media, That video shows you how to pack sheet music. That's how I pack magazines as well as print ads. So if you watch that video, you'll see every step. I even have the dimensions of the cardboard and everything listed in that video, step by step. You can pause it and watch it over and over, however many times it takes you to remember or see what goes on in that for packing. So that would be good on the packing here. The playlist now. I added one of my playlists on a thing, and the post says video number 68 up today, plus one of my personal playlists. That should be a playlist. If people can respond back to me and let me know if you see a playlist, there should be a playlist with that, with 40 or 50 plus straight hours of music. It's got every 90s song that you could imagine that was a hit or that's a good song. It's took me a long time to put that together, and I listen to it a lot. I've got R&B and rap ones that I listen to too, classical and the whole works. But that is a full playlist. If you're only seeing the one song, you're missing all of what was the point of the post. So again, if you're not seeing it, for those of you who are interested in it, that's a whole playlist. It should have hundreds of songs. And we have YouTube Red. It's a paid service, but I don't have commercials, so it plays just like a jukebox, and I have a shuffle. And it's always there. It's always available. Anybody can hit it up. They can listen to their own private versions of my playlists here while they're listing. So everything that you need is there, and you can just rock out or whatever you do for your motivation. So again, that was supposed to be a full playlist. If for some reason it's not, I'll have to figure out why the link didn't work, because I tested the link on that ahead of time. Once you get that, the first song pops up, you should be able to click on the playlist aspect. If nothing else, there should be a thing that says playlist. It's an unlisted playlist, but it should let you do it. I don't really want the playlist shared across, because then it'll show up in on my page, and I'm not really looking to put out a music playlist of anything. So if you want me to look into it, just please let me know if you're not seeing the playlist. Because again, I know a lot of people say, I'm listening and having the radio on and all that stuff. A lot of people just like to put something on and forget about it. With the playlist here on YouTube, with YouTube Red, it's shuffle. It's different every time. It's got hundreds of songs in that playlist that I shared, and they're all like the top best songs. It's not like random songs from it's all 90s alternative. It's all the best stuff. It's what I love listening to too. Another one, somebody was talking about plushes in the section, wasn't sure if he missed something. If your video doesn't have the Nintendo plushes and some of the other plushes that are shown in there, something must have glitched out on your end, because they're in the video. I went back and double checked it. So if I've got it in the title of the video post, it should have that in the video. And there's a bunch of Nintendos in there, and I can't remember the other plushes that were in there, but there's a bunch of plushes in the center of that video. So I would go back and double check that. That is video 61 with the Insane Clown Posse, Bolos, Russ Berry, and the whole works. That one there. Let's see here. Again, I had several people talking about hating clothes and stuff, and they're so happy to find stuff like this. The more you know in this area, in the collectibles and stuff, the more items you can find and source. We started off with a few, and then a few more, and then a few more. People ask me, how many categories do you sell in? It's probably a couple hundred, I would gather. I mean, because I don't really care. As long as it's easy money, it's something I know is going to sell, it's something I can price, and it's something that's legal, I'm going to sell it, so. Here's another one. I found some old books with amazing etched pictures. I have noticed looking at other sellers listing that some list them as book plates. Can you tell me what the difference is between pictures and plates, and any tips on selling these items? Okay, book plates. There's many kinds of book plates, I guess you could say, and the term is a generic term. An engraved image in a book can be considered a book plate, because a plate was used to stamp that into the page. The best things to sell from a book are actual real engraved images, mostly 19th century. Pretty much if it has 1900 or newer on it, I usually don't even mess with it. Unless, for example, it's from like an N.C. Wythe book and somebody's cut out the 20 or whatever plates, the illustrations in that book, and selling those separately. Because many times you can get 15 or 20 bucks just for the plates. Because like, say, an N.C. Wythe book might be worth 150 bucks. So people are buying them just for the artwork. He's a painter. So stuff like that may be okay. I've sold like groups of just Wizard of Oz plates, illustrations from the book. Again, it's a generic term. An engraved image, or an engraved book plate is different. If they're really engraved, you will see a indentation in the paper, and then almost like a border, like a framework around the text. The text will also be raised or embedded into the paper, and you can see it on the opposite side where it's pushed down into the paper from the ink, the steel plate slamming down onto the page in one form or another. I'm giving you a generic description, but that's the basics on it. There's more to it, but that's the basics. I just showed an engraved plate in my last What Sold video, so you kind of get an idea if you go back and watch that video too. That had an plate in it. And most engraved images, if you rub your fingernail across the page, you will feel a little tiny ridge wherever the ink is. That's another way to tell too. Not all of them, because sometimes if it's rag paper early, rag paper has cloth in it. It will absorb the ink before it has time to dry and leave that ridge on there on some of them. It just depends. But again, book plates don't necessarily have to be engraved to be worth money, but they have to be something unique. You're not going to sell 50s and 60s book plates like that for a ton of money. There's also one other term that you could see used for book plate, and that would be the identification nameplate in the front of a book. Some people call those book plates as well. That would be like a custom sticker, basically, that, like, let's say I'd buy one and I would have my name printed on it, and I would stick that on the inside cover of every book in my collection. So if somebody steals it or it ends up disappearing, I can track it down a little bit. That's another form, but that's more like a nameplate or something like that. But people do call them book plates. But for the most part, they just don't go as well. It's the same basic market, but a hair worse than it would be for like a print ad, these book plates. Again, unless they're engraved. But with an engraved book plate, the one I showed in the last What I Sold video, I sold for $18.50. I bought a bunch of them, maybe 18 or 20 of these. I think it was from a book from 1834 for like $1 for the book, so I cut the book up. Now, if I count how much it cost me to list those, I'm listing 2 cents to list them in my first 10,000, 5 cents to list any individual listing after that. So I've got less than $1 to list them every month, way less than that in all honesty, because, you know, I sold one the first day or two, and then I sold another one the first week. Half of them are gone. So it's a math issue here. So all you got to do is figure out the math. So if I'm spending, let's say for a whole year, it cost me $2 to list those 18 or 24 plates. I don't remember now. It's been a while, and I get plates all the time, so I sell them. And you know, that same those 24 plates that I have is costing me those $2 to list, and I sell one a month for $18. Again, that's how this works. It's a game. You got to balance out your expense versus your income. So I spend $2 a month or a year or whatever it equates to, and I'm making $15, $20 to $30 profit from these every single month. It might take me 10 months to get rid of only 20 or 24 of these, but that's how the game's played with those. You've got to have the earlier ones, though, to sell them. Early engraved steel plates or maps that are from a book that were engraved and hand watercolored, or really any hand watercolored plates usually will sell. So if you find like a wildlife book, an Audubon book or something, or a Currier and Ives wildlife related book, vintage 19th century now we're talking about, with hand watercolored illustrations, those are always worth selling. That's a big deciding factor on stuff. There's also now tipped in images. Now, tipped in image is where you'll see a tiny little strip at the top of a single picture glued to a page. You can flip it up and look underneath it even. It's just one little glue strip at the top. That's a tipped in image. Some people will call those a book plate occasionally too. I would call it a tipped in. I might say book illustration or something too, or book plate. It's a generic term again. So hopefully that gives you some breakdown on it. There's not a lot that are worth money, though, so don't be thinking modern-day books or even books from the 1910, 20, 30, 40 era of just common stuff are worth even touching like that. Even if the book would sell for 15 or 20 bucks on stuff like that, most of the time the book plates aren't worth much at all. Again, Tarzan, sci-fi, maybe a totally different story, but there's only so new you can get with those that they'll sell. Now, you might sell some as crafter items now. You're not going to sell them as collectible items, but you can mix in junk journal lots and crafters lots those book plates. So you could just have a lot of book plates as a junk journal lot too. So just keep that in mind. But they got to be nice. If you're going to do something like that, you would want to do, like, let's say you've got 100 kids books that aren't worth anything. They're all damaged on the covers. You can cut out pages off those. People do buy those to decoupage and kids' walls and all kinds of stuff. There's a big market for that kind of stuff. It's not a fortune in it, but, you know, there's enough money to make it well worth your while. Especially if you can't find items, but you can get those junk books for free. So, anyway. I got another one here about Patreon. Let me pop down here. When I use the Patreon app for videos, if I need to pause, it starts at the beginning when I return. Is there any way to change that? I listen while I drive. Eyes are on the road, I promise, so I can be challenging to start from the beginning. Don, I saw the recent Toy Story piece you put up. I found this a lot locally. They showed me a lot, and I gave them an explanation on that, which it's in there, so you guys can all look at that and give them their opinion. I don't remember the specifics. I see tons of stuff like that a day, but... Another question on the same person is, can we post pictures from the app? I don't know the app. I've never messed with apps. Again, I'm not a big phone person. I only use it to look up stuff, or a map in a car for navigating. That's about all. I never answer a phone in the car. And for those of you who converse with me occasionally on text, I don't even remember to check my phone many times. I'm not a big phone person or social media person in general. Talking into the camera here is totally different because there's nobody here while I'm doing this, and it's just like me talking. So I can't tell you on the specifics on the app. Again, I do have questions into Patreon right now, so when they come back, because it was also related to applications and trying to do stuff on there, so hopefully I will get an answer in the next, say, 3, 4, 5 days, cross my fingers, and I'll know a little bit more on that. So I have a behind the scenes here for you as well from Estate Jewelers. This is just going to be back behind the scenes. You'll get to see some of the equipment and stuff they use. It was pretty interesting. You'll get to see some more conversations here, and off we go for that.
Yeah, this is...
I'd have a field day playing around with all this.
We have 3 jewelers that work for us full-time. This is some of the manufacturing that we do. This is Victorian reproductions.
Yeah, I can tell it's rose gold. That would be the technical
and then
thing.
we're going to oxidize it, make it look a little older, and I sell these to antique dealers.
Oh, really? Huh?
Yep.
Local ones downtown, or
no, it's national.
Oh, okay. That's
this
pretty
is a
interesting.
laser welder. This latest technology for soldering.
Oh.
Saves a lot of time.
I could imagine. My son's always worried about it. He solders some. He has to heat up. It's a big process to do it at home without the equipment, I can tell you.
Oh yeah. Well, this is nice. You can retip an emerald, and an emerald can't take heat. That's how precise it is.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
So we keep up on all the latest.
Lots of molds I see on your wall.
Oh yeah, I've got over 30,000.
Wow, 30,000! Holy cow! Yeah, you've got basically a built-in kiln sitter at the bottom, or furnace.
Oh,
yeah.
It's nice. Yeah, it's programmable.
Yeah, that's what he doesn't have.
We can make 500 to 600 rings easily.
Can I? Boy, those coils are so huge.
Oh yeah, it takes there's like 4 of them in there.
Just the gauge on the wire is amazing that it's that thick.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, we've rebuilt it quite a few times because we use it quite a bit.
Yeah, there's a Canadian company that we get all of ours from.
I haven't had a chance to clean up because we melted down a lot of gold.
Yeah, and I've seen this one
Yeah,
before.
we do the
vacuum. Yeah, I've seen that one in use.
Sits down in a chamber, and then we use electromelts. This is what I was telling you about.
If I come back sometime, would you mind if I bring my son since he does this?
Yeah.
He would love to see this.
Let me know ahead of time. We'll make something while he's here.
He would love that.
We'll pour it.
Would I be able to film something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
If you have a business card before I leave, I will put your whatever contact.
Sure.
If you want an email address or website, whatever, I'll be happy to put that in the bottom description of the video too.
Great. Yeah, probably our website.
That's your induction.
This we did some rose gold, so it has copper in it, so we had to get it up to 2,000 degrees. But this is nice because white gold's 1,900 degrees, yellow gold's 1,800. And this is why I don't like to use a spin caster, is you can't control the temperature.
I have not seen one of those exactly
I've had them quite a bit. Now this is a magnetic disc finisher. The old times you used to tumble it to get the rings, somewhat smooth. This has
metal
a media
ball.
in it.
Okay, I was just going to say whether it was metal or ceramic. It looks like.
In 20 minutes, it'll take what the other one took 24 hours. And this right here, this will take more of a.
That's like a sand or something.
Yeah.
I see your investment casting in the sink. I see your.
No. Actually, we put it over there.
No, I mean just the flasks are in there. I've just.
Those are ones that we do like one at a time. This is a magnetic tumbler.
Oh, that's
This has the little needles. It gets into all the filigrees. and everything else. And this is, you know, after a half hour, it'll have it all polished up.
Wow, that's neat. That's just to get out the scrap junk that shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, this is electromagnet.
And there's that airbrushing chamber, it looks like.
Yeah,
Or
that's actually sandblasted
Yeah,
for
yeah,
different
that's what I-
effects in that. This is our polishing, and it's amazing how much you get in the filters.
Oh, gold
dust,
wise, yeah. My son, we've got a couple grinders at the house because he does grind. He makes his own coins and necklaces too out of sterling, and he always has a little device or a tray thing he puts under whenever he sands anything. Because at the end of the day, sometimes, you know, in a month or so, if I'm doing
yeah.
that's another ounce or two. Not that that's huge, but why waste it?
No, it does, yeah.
Yeah, why
It's
waste it?
amazing what you get. Okay, now over here is the mold room. Like I said, we haven't had a chance to clean that up. We had some orders to fill.
You have a hot wax machine too, I would imagine,
Actually,
somewhere.
I got probably 4 of them all together. I got 2 here. These are the latest technologies. And what it does, when you shoot a mold,
We've got dozens of those at the house, so
yep,
yeah.
when you shoot a mold, they don't always fill. This creates a vacuum first, so it takes all the air out, and then it shoots the wax in. Once we get the wax,
And you're using pellets too, it looks like. Is that correct?
when we meld it down for the wax, this is a tree. This has probably got 100 different rings on it. These are the old styles.
And they're all hand glued on there, or hand melted, yeah,
Yes.
attached, yeah.
Mhm. But we got the system down. I mean, we can do
I would say
5
so.
of these in a half a day.
I would say so. My son, when he met, because I do most of that with him, I bought a dentist office out, and I bought all the wax. They had all the
Oh, yeah.
wax plates and pieces. So he's done that too, and we'll remelt it, and then he makes his own molds and the sprue. Just what you're doing here,
Oh,
we do
yeah.
the same thing too. And I know exactly why there's the screen there too.
Yeah, so we got 2 different stations here.
You got a whole bunch ready
Yeah,
to
we
go.
do a lot of like religious charms, a lot of everything.
Oh, I do
Herbal.
very well in religious charms.
Yep.
Very, very well. In fact, I've got videos just on religious charms.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
And this is our catalog that these are our best sellers. And
When you already have a ton already ready to go, so
Yeah.
you're making them in a gang
so when we
mold.
get
So.
an order. Right now, I don't make much up for stock. I make it as I get orders in.
So if you need a couple of one, you'll just make a whole bunch just to have extra. In other words.
No, actually, I just make what we need.
Oh, so you stopped making the
Well, I get
overage.
my orders that I get. They want 200-300 pieces at a time.
Oh, okay. So I gotcha. Yeah, and these would be more along the lines of business.
Right. This is more wholesale.
Now this is the stuff we use, that color. And these
Yeah.
are the older ones, if
Yeah,
I'm not
the old
mistaken. And
rubber,
this
yep,
one I
the
have not
label.
seen at all.
Yeah, what they do is they have different things have got different textures for it.
Yeah, I have not seen anything with that
Yeah.
texture. Now this one I know my son can melt, and it'll do up to like 1,000, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no problem. I'd probably make on some of these models I made over 10,000
Wow, never wore
throughout
out
the
too.
years.
Yeah, and we'll buy the molds off of at like local auctions and stuff. I bought out one from, I don't know if you know what Jade's is. Jade's Auctions. Jade in Monterey or whatever. Well, anyway,
Oh, yeah,
he runs auctions and stuff, and usually when he has the casting stuff, I always snag on
Oh,
those
yeah.
too. Because these molds on eBay, I can get,
Actually, a lot of these molds came from an auction. A company went out. Well, the company went out of business in the 70s, and they were in business from 1910. Third generation put it out of business. Well, a friend of mine was at a storage locker auction.
I have friends that do that too.
He bought 'em. I gave him like $20,000 mold, and he was ecstatic. I was ecstatic because when you open them up, most people can't tell what they are. It's like looking
It's
at
in
an
reverse
X-ray.
too, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I get you.
But I can.
Yeah, same here,
You know,
because
when
my
I see-
son's done it.
When I seen the filigree, I said, "Okay, this is a good
Early,
deal."
decent one.
Yep.
Yeah, I love I love this kind of stuff. That's why I said we started doing it on our own. I do action figures, and I've got a line of toys going to be coming out that's going to be produced by a company who's going to
Sure.
cast them for us. Well, very interesting. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I don't mean to interrupt. Kate Gilster is out front. She said you have something for the sisters.
Yeah, just write her out a check for $100 and put down charity.
Oh, so you've got the scrap. So do you just smash that down, or you just burn off the
No,
inside,
you
the
can't burn
plastic?
it off. You got to peel it off.
Yeah, I figured.
A lot of that is like a foil.
Yeah, and we tear them apart when I get them. They're just not worth selling on their own unless
No,
they're
they don't sell.
some really high designer name or really fancy.
Yep.
It's all scrap. My son will just strip them down. I'll buy scrap, Usually what people leave, or what I find is they'll leave like the knives and the handles on that, because there's not a lot in them. It's not like the solid.
Right.
And then I usually get those for almost nothing, and then, you don't get a lot, but it's there.
Yeah, it's like a half ounce.
Yeah, something
Raw
like that.
gemstones. I carry probably 200,000 carats of gemstones.
I'm gonna turn this off. But that's about it. So again, as always, any comments, questions, needs, post them down below. If you need anything, you can email me here in Patreon. You can post photos for sure from your desktop or your laptop on the community tab, and I'll have an answer for you on the rest. Again, just look out for more videos coming out. If you got any questions, comments, or anything else, again, leave them below, and I do thank you all for your support.